Well, not too surprisingly, we're still in Arizona.
Well, there was just so much to see.
Oh, man. And we're in fact still in the shops at the Grand Canyon Railroad because, like you say, there's just so much to see.
Right.
So this week we're actually looking at the diesel engines and the private cars.
Oh, neat.
Now, while we were there, we were fortunate we got to ride the steam train, but normally they're running diesels. So they have two different steam locomotives, and they always have at least one of the two running. And we rode 4960 here, but they only run the steam like 4 days a year.
Oh, wow.
Or special events like we had. Normally the trains are pulled by big diesel engines that they got from Amtrak.
Oh, okay.
Now I can't say as I know much about diesel locomotives. This is an EMD, that's Electromotive Division, that's General Motors, F40-PH.
Oh.
Whatever all that means. If you know, you can jump into the comments and say what all of that actually means. But there it is. And you see these on Amtrak all the time. These were built by EMD for passenger service, and they're really exclusively designed for passenger trains.
The generator, and that runs inside of that room right there. And basically how this works is this is your main engine.
Do you think he'll be able to get down here?
Yeah.
Do it backwards.
Yes.
Puts out about 3,000 horsepower. It's a 16 cylinder. So this right here is what we call our blowdowns. This is because diesel is basically compression and fuel. So when we open these up, this releases a compression out. And basically, every time we start these over, what we do is we open up every one of these blowdowns and we crank the engine over, making sure we have no coolant, fuel, so it doesn't hydrolock. If nothing's spinning out, we lock them all down. And then we crank it over and fire it up, and then the engine runs up. How long does that take? To fire it over, not long at all. And then just basically I walk down probably about 3 minutes to blow it down, and then about not even a minute to fire it over. This right here up top, they call this the top deck. This is going to be all your heads, this is your cam right here. These are what they call the crab bolts. There's 2 crab bolts per every head. And that's bolted into the frame? That is correct. Okay. This right here is your valve bridge. The center one, this is your injector. This right here, you see each one has one of these. When you run down here and you look, you'll see there's actually a shaft that runs down. This is your lathe shaft, and this is basically what they call your fuel rack. So this is controlling all the injectors at one time. And then as we come down here.
Now what we see right here is the main generator. So that big, huge diesel engine is tied directly into a huge generator that feeds power down to the traction motors, which are part of the wheel trucks that actually drive the wheels around. So they work sort of like a hybrid car.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, because these locomotives were designed for passenger service, they also have to have a second generator to provide what they call hotel power, to run power back to the passenger cars to run the lights and the air conditioning.
Boy, talk about some tight quarters in here.
It's like being in a submarine.
Oh, that's what it reminded me of, was that submarine we went on tour through.
As you go in this room, you can head down that way. I was going to go over this way. This is going to be the generator run that powers 480 to all the cars. This is a good sized diesel engine. I mean,
okay, so that runs completely
separate. Correct. This is your generator right here, and it creates 480 volts. So this one will crank 480 volts out of this generator and run to your cars. Yeah.
Serious, wow.
And then on top of that, so
Power up to 15 cars
well,
with this
it
generator?
might not just do all the cars because it'll do so many. It helps assist because we are running 15 cars. Some of these cars out here, they all have generators on them, so it'll help. You know, I think when I was at the coaster, we powered no problem up to 5 cars, and that's running full AC, 5-ton units, 2 of them per car. So you end up with 10 5-ton units, and it's running.
So what about, like, say an old Pullman car that wasn't set up that way initially? Were those retrofitted? So
They're
that they would run off
retrofitted,
of
yes.
this?
Yep.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to bring up, so they also have another F40. They call them the screamers for the generators. And a lot of times you'll hear them in the station, and they're running high RPMs all the time. I believe they run from, I want to say 4, or even up. Some of them I believe are up to notch 8, and they run consistently all the time. So it's powering the compressor, powering the main generator, which powers the motors. When it'll stop the power on that and run the rest of the power through the whole entire train.
So where's the main generator?
The main generator, that was
Oh,
that
up
room that
front.
we walked through when you came down those steps.
Okay.
That's the main generator room for the main. And then the main will also have a drive shaft that runs all the way to the front that runs this compressor here. And then this is separate. That's why they call it the generator room. This is for the cars.
Okay.
It's hot and I'm hooked up on a hammer.
So it's kind of interesting. These remind me of the old F-unit diesels from the 1940s, the 1950s. They called them the covered wagons.
Oh,
But it's kind of like a modern version of that. This is one of those traction motors that I was talking about.
wow, that's a beautiful car right here.
Isn't that something?
Goodness.
Now, in order to understand what's going on there, we need to cover a little tiny bit of railroad history.
Oh, absolutely.
So, a guy by the name of Philip Anschutz, a Colorado billionaire who was into all kinds of different businesses and things, decided that he wanted to go into railroading, so he bought the Denver and Rio Grande.
Oh,
I guess it's good to be rich.
I guess so. But you know, I could see if you had a little money buying a railroad.
I'd do it. And then he put together a private train consisting of 3 cars to run around on his railroad.
Well, cool.
And then he bought the Southern Pacific.
Ah,
And at that point, he was such a big railroad that the Union Pacific came along and said, you know, so they bought him out.
oh,
So he bought the Grand Canyon Railroad.
I see.
And he brought his 3 cars here.
Well, that is just cool.
And here they are.
Yeah, look at the inside of this.
And the 2 were chartered and they were out on the line. And that's what they do with them here. If he's not using them, then they'll lease them out, charter them out to people. And 2 were out on the line and 1 was here, so we could tour it.
This is pretty.
Not too bad.
Not
So
too bad living here.
Phil's not here then?
No, he's not on board right now. It's still technically his car, though.
Really?
Well, he donated it to the railway, but he owns the railway, so it all comes back.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So he had a whole train of these one time.
Yep. There's three cars that he gave us, and actually, if you guys watched the consist depart this morning, the Utah car is actually being used right now, going up the canyon. Yep, this is one of 3. This is it's kind of the most intimate of the cars that are available. This has got the living spaces, the sleeping availability. The Utah car is the kind of the more party-oriented car. That's the one that's on the train today. And then there's the California, which is our dome sleeper car as well. All of these are mid to late 1950s, so it feels authentic because it is. Yep. Yeah.
It's nice.
Not bad.
It's nice.
Y'all let me know if you have questions.
This was named after Wilson.
Wilson McCarthy. Yep.
That's who was the head of the railroad at the time or something?
President, actually. Yep.
President Wilson? And then McCarthy was...
Oh, that was his name. Wilson McCarthy.
Wilson McCarthy. Last name McCarthy.
Okay.
When was this one made? This is mid-late 1950s, so 1956, I believe. 1955, yeah.
These cars are so beautiful.
Yeah, Phil Anschutz he took 3 of the original Rio Grande cars and totally restored them to their 1950s. I mean, with some changes to make them functional for what he wanted them to do. But essentially, they're restored back to their original glory from the 1950s.
Right, like somebody's living room.
We've had some interesting folks just in our time. We've had a dignitary from India that's taken this train a couple years ago, and lots of small families that just love coming back and enjoying this.
There was a time in America that if you had the money, you had a private car.
Imagine that. But even back then, riding the train was an occasion.
It really was. And without anything like private jets or anything, if you wanted the super high end or even business travel, the way you did that is you owned your own private railroad car. Now this car is designed to be at the tail end of a train.
There it is.
There it is. So it's got this great observation platform out on the back of it where you can go out to the back of the train and sit on the little veranda here.
Yes.
And take some brandy and just enjoy the scenery going by.
Right.
But wow, again, the absolute height of elegance riding around in one of these beautifully restored too private cars. I think it's interesting that they're still basically painted as they were on the Rio Grande.
Yes.
Back when they were on the Rio Grande, same exact color scheme, only instead of saying now Denver and Rio Grande on them, they say Grand Canyon Railroad on them.
Exactly.
You can really see here how these are painted in their original Rio Grande paint schemes.
They look nice.
The only thing that's been changed is the name.
Right.
Instead of Denver and Rio Grande, it says Grand Canyon Railroad.
Right.
But the colors, the stainless steel, the fonts used, everything is original from the Rio Grande. But it was also just so neat to see these shops, fully functional shops. They work in here every day on the 2 steam locomotives, and I think they've got four or five different diesel locomotives, and everything is in constant state of repair. It's a pretty, massive shop.
It is, but I can't believe how clean it is. I mean, you could run around there in a white wedding dress.
Yeah, about the only thing here that wasn't spotless was the cat.
But he's a shop cat.
Well, anyway, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please become a subscriber by clicking on the blue button. Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet, and we hope you didn't find it boring, and we will see you here on Tuesday.
Right.
We'll see you then.
We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.